welcome to the Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And today's special guest, and I'm so excited to have her here with me, is Deborah Crowley. And Deborah, why don't we have you just share a little bit about yourself?
Okay, as she mentioned, Deborah Crowley. I am an entrepreneur. Grew up in Newark, New Jersey, little girl in what we call the not so good area. I'm an entrepreneur of three different businesses. I own a cleaning company as well as for 15 years. And also, I'm opening up a nonprofit organization to support the elderly. It's called Elderly Resource Center, where elders can come get whatever they need. I have a passion for elders. Also, Ladies of Justice Ambassador, where we empower women to have access to an attorney for a minimum price. Also, too, I am the G100 Livonia City Chair for the state of Michigan. So, with two grandchildren, two sons, and just living life and trying to live my dream.
So beautiful. And where do we begin? Well, because I'm a native New Yorker, growing up right on the other side of the river from you, and we understand what that means in Queens, I'm going to ask you, what was it like growing up in Newark, New Jersey? What was it like?
Wow, you talk about a lot of things. Like I said, a little girl that was didn't know her worth because of the environment back in the day. And living in Newark, New Jersey, we were considered not having a whole lot, not having having love, somewhat love in the family, but we just didn't have a whole lot. I grew up with my brother and my aunt and my grandmother in my home. There was a lot of things going on in there, a little trauma going on back in the day living in Newark, New Jersey. So I had to get out of there, if you will, because
Yeah.
of the environment that I lived in.
Okay. So take us further into your life. You grew up and school was prominent, of course, and we go to our elementary, our middle school, our high school. When did you find a passion of what you loved and what did you study?
Growing up in high school, I was always bullied. I
Oh,
mean, in grammar school, growing up, yes, I was bullied. Always get into fights with girls that just didn't like me, and I don't know what it was. I as I grow older, I think it was just jealousy. I guess not sure, but I was trying to find myself back then because I was a people pleaser because didn't understand why I was getting in fights all the times. Um, and it starts back from 1961. My dad died. He got shot, gunned down by the police. When they talk about what's going on in the world today, it's always been out there. It just hasn't been as visible as it is now. Like I said, he was gunned down by the police 22 times because being somewhere at the wrong time, right? So grew up without a father. Then, like I said, it wasn't that much love in the family growing up, going to grammar school, going to high school. It was just a journey for me. It was love in the family, but it just wasn't for me. You know what I mean? So I can never understand that, what happened and why. Well, yes, I can after talking to my mom and understanding the trauma that she has gone through that she went through in her life. There was no love, so she didn't know how to share love with me. And she never said she loved me until about I was 40 something years old. And I had to make her say that, tell her to say it to me that she loves me. And I understood the trauma that she went through back in the day because of that. So it was a lot of things going on back then. Like I said, in high school, I was very quiet. I was a part of the basketball girls team, not playing basketball, but took scores. A lot of my friends played basketball then. Very quiet, didn't do a whole lot back then, but graduated from high school with honors. So the trauma didn't affect me then. Sometimes when you have the willpower to succeed, it doesn't affect you, or it's just a mental shift that you have in your mind that I will not allow the things that around me affect me from being successful in what I do.
right, right, right. And I'm trying to think now, you're younger than me. Okay. So you probably came in at the tail end of integration, the tail end of all of the schools mixing. Kids did not want to be integrated, so there was a lot of fighting going on that way. Also, because I came in the middle of it, and I know that I'm older than you, but I'm not that much older than you. And yeah, there were a lot of bullies. You're not alone. So we had to survive that particular scenario. I'm thinking about how it was in New York City, and I know New Jersey, New York City. We always just thought of each other as the same when we grew up. So I know that for me, the trauma, the fights, and everything else, because girl, you're not alone. It really shaped something within me to be able to survive no matter what the situation. What was it for you?
It was kind of hard. Like I said, I don't know. I even had to talk to a therapist years ago about just my trauma and what I was going through. And I always thought it was that I was stressed out in my company, but she told me it was trauma from when I was growing up. Like you said, back in the day in Newark and New York, we were considered as a family. When the riots was going on back in the 60s, I remember sleeping on the floor. My mom made us sleep on the floor. And literally, I haven't talked about this, but it's something that probably need to share. Little mice used to run around in our apartments. We had mice running around and we had to lay on the floor. And I would see the mice running around and I was scared. But my mom told us to get under the floor because during that time of the riots, you had the army trucks driving down the streets. And this is bringing back memories, driving down the street. And if you looked out the window, because I looked out the window to see what was going on, and one of the army guys, the soldiers, put the gun up, had a gun at the window and told me to back up. And so my mom saw me looking out the window, so she made me get under the table, under the beds, because like I said, we had to sleep with our clothes on. So those bring back memories back then where my mom was going out helping people. Like the riots were really bad when people were loitering and stealing. My mom was out there at that time. So, and I remember too looking out the window and my mom, this guy got shot. I don't know, I guess from the riots and stuff, and my mom took off her coat and put it on her, and we were screaming, trying to tell her to come back in the house. So back in the day, it was hard. It really was hard. You try to turn it off and not think about it, and that's what I've been doing for so many years, not worrying about it. And it's amazing that I'm talking about it now, and now remember the things that we had to go through. So yeah, it was hard.
I remember being in high school and you had two groups of people, one on one side of the street, one on the other side of the street, and one cop car trying to hold back all of these kids from rioting and fighting each other. Girl, I remember those days big time. And I remember seeing the riots, and I was always one of those kids that went the opposite way. I didn't want to see what was going on. I didn't want to know what was going on. I just wanted to be out of there. So yeah, I get it. So we fast forward and we come to life, and there we are. We're in college, and we've had these experiences, and we're expected to choose what we're going to do in life. And here we are, semi traumatized because the things that you see, you can't ever take back. The experiences that you have, the bullies, the everything that's in your life can never go back. It's something that leaves an imprint in your life, but we're still expected to move forward. So we move forward. The scars are sometimes fresh, and how we react is still based on what happened into those traumas. But how was college for you?
College was okay. Went to college. I've always, in my family, I think I was the first one to really go to college. Not think, I know I was the first one to really go to college. College was okay. I think mentally, like I said, there was something in my brain that said that you need to succeed. You need to move on. You need to keep it moving and not worry about those things. Like you said, you're still traumatized by everything that's going on. But college was good. Actually, I was 2 credits from really graduating because my aunt got me a position at McDonald's Corporation. Yeah, in New Jersey, the main headquarters. I kept track of all the sales of all the restaurants that opened up, and it was amazing. So I left college to go work in corporate, and I worked in McDonald's Corporation for about 10 and a half years
Wow.
until I left for
Wow.
another job. So college was okay. Like I said, I left and only needed 2 credits to graduate to even actually get my bachelor's degree. But at that time, I had to make money for our home.
Exactly. You'd have to do what you have to do. So I'm gonna ask you a question that's just off the beaten path, which is this. Okay. We have our human experience. right? And we know what we have to do in that human experience and in that survival mode. How would you say you were spiritually? How would you say you were in that sacred place where nobody can talk or reach or anything else? How were you there?
Um, I don't know. It's like I said, it was, I always ask myself, how did I got a lump in my throat. How did
It's okay.
how did I survive that? Even till today, like trying to figure out how did I do that? And I think, like I said, there was this little mechanism in my head that I just turned it off. I don't know if it was, and I'm not even gonna say I don't know, but the spirit was moving me because I had something to do. You know what I mean? I have a purpose. I have something to do in my life. So going through everything that I went through, I don't know. Mentally, I just kept it locked in and kept it moving.
So I'm going to just give you a chance to breathe here. For those of you who don't know Deborah Crowley, I mean, her love of the elderly, her love and her passion for the work that she does and how she contributes to this world is off the charts. It is so, 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 so beautiful. And we have had those deep conversations that talked about the elderly, that talked about how we in the United States, we don't value age and we need to change and shift that paradigm. Here I am sitting in Africa and I see families cherish their elderly so much.
Right.
They engage them in the family. They treat them like they're kings and queens. They're nurturing them. They're taking care of them because they were the ones that took care of the youngers when they were young. So, I see that equal reciprocation and we lose that. We've lost something in the United States. We put our elderly away. And I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm just stating the facts. The facts are that we learn and we observe this in so many different ways from other people. And then we just think that that's the norm, but it's not the norm. It's not the norm. And, God bless you. You are celebrated in so many different ways because you are successful in so many different ways. You have your own cleaning business, you're an entrepreneur, and you take care of the resources for the aged and the elderly and the women for justice. When did you decide what it was you wanted to do and how you wanted to contribute to the world?
After I left corporate, like I said, well, working in corporate for over 30 something years, I used to master everything that your executives, your CEOs, I used to watch them, everything that they did. And I said, you know what? I'm going to open my own company. Always knew that. And I always said, whatever you do, master it, right? And watch everything that they do. So, working at like McDonald's Corporation, Xerox Corporation, Easter Seals, I worked for Fortune 500 companies, believe it or not, through my journey. And I mastered everything. And I decided that, I'm going to have to help people because I saw how people were treated. I saw how women were treated. I saw how seniors were treated. Like I said, I saw all phases of life of how people were treated and how people accept to be treated that way. So I said, when I'm going to open up my company, like I opened up the cleaning services. I provided jobs. I have 23 employees. I've reached a million status because of helping people. And God has blessed me with that because I'm always helping them. My employees, when they come in, I train them. I even train them how to open their own cleaning company, right? And that was a blessing, like from corporate, like I said, when learning all that, and in my mind, I said, I have to help people. I have to help people. Even with the elderly, I saw how elderly are treated. I started noticing elderly people working in restaurants, McDonald's corporate, I mean, that's not McDonald's restaurant,
Restaurant.
and
Oh,
cleaning at their locations, right?
mhm.
They have work stacked up to here, not knowing what to do. And I felt so sorry. And I was always a person for seniors. They would call me and say they didn't have money. I would send the ladies out to clean for them for free So during that time, I knew that there was something that I was supposed to do, even through all that trauma and everything. I was always helping someone, always making sure like I'm that resource person. I'm that strategic person that makes sure everyone's getting what they need, despite of myself, despite of myself. So that's how I went through like working in, like I said, working in corporate and just discovering who I am and what I needed to do to help people. And like you said about the senior citizens, oh man, that's the best thing that I could have done, because that came to me when I had a senior. Like I said, we cleaned for this one lady, and she just said that she doesn't have the strength. Her family, they love her, they do what they can, but they're busy with their lives too. So they couldn't really help her do what she needed to do. So she would always call me and we would have a conversation because I gave her that time, because I stopped and would talk to her to make sure she was okay. And then that's when the Elderly Resource Center came out. I'm like, you have to be a one-stop shop location for seniors to get what they need. I mean, anything that needs. I have vendors, I have banks, mortgage banks asking me to come sit in the bank to fill out paperwork for the seniors, because they always need their roof fixed, or they need to remodel their home, or they need to do different things. I have different vendors that are asking me and saying, this is the most powerful thing you can do for seniors, because they are forgotten. So throughout all that, I just know it's my passion to help people. I know my purpose,
That's
always.
beautiful. That is so, so beautiful. For me, it was my mother. My mother was that person that you are, and I observed her doing it. And that's when I was just like, you know what? For me, it's like I have to help, I have to contribute, I have to work with people. And then I cast my net worldwide because I wanted to see the world as a passion. My aunt actually installed traveling in my background, and I used to travel with her everywhere as a little girl. She was like, come on, because she didn't have any kids, so she would be like, come on, you can come with me here, you can come with me there, and we'd go all across the country. And then I remember taking my first trip alone at 12 years old. So that travel piece was instilled in me. But I remember being with my mom. My mom was a registered nurse, and she was also a daycare center nurse. And so she would be the person that they always had to come to in order to get their kids into school and everything else. And they had to have proper shots and have to have this and have to have that. And, you know, during the day, she might have had to say, no, I can't, that's against the rules. But meanwhile, what she would do is meet with them after work and then basically tell them, this is what you need to do, and walk with them through the process and help them to get what they needed so that they could get exactly what was taken care of. I remember delivering Christmas turkey or Thanksgiving turkeys to different houses, and I would look in the house and I'd see 7 people sleeping in the front room, all on the floor together. You know, I mean, it's real. It's real. And
Absolutely.
it really, for me, and I see that in you, it brings out the better person in you. You want to be a better person, to be able to help people, to contribute to, even if you touch one life the right way. For me, I've always said, if I touch one life the right way, then it was worth living. If this whole life was worth living because I touched one person the right way. So
Um,
that passion that you find, I mean, how much has it driven you?
a lot, to the point where I can't turn it off. Sometimes I have to, like, say, for example, if I see someone on the streets that need help, or like a homeless person, I go help them. I'm telling you all the times, until sometimes, a couple of times I had to ask God, okay, God, that's enough. Literally, I can't turn it off. And that's what's driving me, that drive to help people. And I know a lot of people say that. When I interview people for my company and I ask them, what motivates you, 99% of everyone says helping people. 99. And I've been doing this for 15 years, and I've employed over 1,500 employees, and 99% says helping people. And that's what we do. But we have to determine how we're going to help them, because everyone says that all the time.
Sure.
Oh, I want to help. And that's even with the ladies of justice, helping women have access to an attorney, the elderly having access to resources, the cleaning company helping women not worry about coming home to clean their home so they could do other things and be with their families. So it's just a drive, and all my businesses, as you can see, coincide with helping people.
Yeah. So
Helping
to
people.
me, you are a phenomenal success. Phenomenal. And like when we talk about success, each one of us has our own definition of success. And some people, they cast their net and they just impact their family. And other people, they cast their net and they impact their community or their country or their world. And for me, you're like that unsung hero that needs to be highlighted, which is why I asked you on the show in the first place, because we need to see leaders like yourself lead by example and then share their stories. It's so important that people hear what you're doing and hear how you did it, because like I was bullied too in my background, and some people use that bullying to say, okay, forget it, life, it's just not worth it. I don't want to encounter other bullies. I'm too scared to live life. I'm too scared to start my own, because what if I encounter the wrong kind of people and I can't face that and I can't deal with that? And I'm also a grandmother and I'm an elder, a grandmother being an affectionate term for a medicine woman. One of the things that I learned in my shamanistic practice, in studying with the indigenous, is that those of us who have major trauma in our life are probably make the best medicine women that are ever out there.
That's what they say.
Because one, you know how to reflect inward, and two, you see what's most obvious, the compassion needed, because you've been and you've experienced what it is for the uncompassionate.
Absolutely.
Three, we recognize what it is that people need sometimes faster than they recognize it themselves, because we recognize the circumstance.
Oh,
So it's really, really important. And I share this because I want our listeners to really hear this and glean this. You might be a person who's gone through trauma. You might be a person that has experienced serious hardship in your life, but you got to refocus that energy. You have to refocus that energy to navigate through life and choose to be successful no matter what the circumstance is. When I watch women with micro loans and little things like that, and able to create huge businesses. And cleaning is real. Everybody always needs cleaning because we're always doing too much. And to be able to make that a successful, huge business is phenomenal. And of course you could. It's a gap in the system. It's a commodity that's needed. You know,
it's
talk to us
amazing.
a little bit about your success with everything. Just talk to us.
It's amazing that you're talking about with the cleaning coming during the pandemic. That was my best year. That was
Mm,
the happiest time ever for me because there was no one out there. And I had to find out that I was, what do you call it, necessity or needed out there, because we had to disinfect. And the amazing part is I had to have my employees, when people had COVID, go into their house, and we had what we called an electric static machine, and we would go into the homes or the offices and spray it down. So we were putting our lives at risk, my life at risk, my employees' life at risk, their families at risk. But there was something that we needed to do during the pandemic. During that time, you're talking about someone staying focused and trying to figure out how can I help people, learning everything about disinfecting, learning everything about how to improve my business. During that time, I was every grant that was out there, Facebook, you name it, I was applying for it. That, in answer to your question previously, that was a defining moment for me, figuring out who I am and what I needed to do, because I was laser focused. And even when opening up the cleaning company, it's hard. Right now, it's a whole different world right now. We don't have enough employees to do the job. We may have more work than jobs, or more jobs than work, because of the way the economy is right now.
mhm.
And a lot of small businesses, such as myself, we're struggling.
Okay.
Something in me is keeping it going. There's been times where I've been in my office shedding tears because sometimes during that time of the COVID, I had to let people go, or I couldn't afford to keep the company open. But something about the spirit inside of me, and that's where the faith came. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it in God's hands because I can't do it. And let me tell you, one time, and I'm going to talk about one time, I couldn't afford to pay my employees. My payroll was like $5,000 one week, and I couldn't afford it. I applied for a grant, and that's another thing people need to know. There's money out there. You just have to go after it and get it. I applied for a grant, and I was talking to my office assistant, like I was in tears, and she started crying too. I turned around, and I swear to God, I turned around and looked at my email and was drying my eyes, and a grant came through for
Wow.
30,000,
Wow.
$30,000. And you're talking about faith, like, yeah. Ever since then, I was like, you know what? Sometimes you got to leave it in God's hand and have that faith that everything's going to be okay. It blew me away. But during the pandemic, it was the hardest thing ever to do. And it's hard now
Yeah.
being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Easy.
Well, you know, a lot of people look at entrepreneurs as also just making streams of income come in. But one of the ways that I also define that entrepreneur is that, you know, having been a product of corporate also, I worked corporate for 20 years. And one of the things that I saw was the oppressive atmosphere a lot of times of how they treated people, how they manipulated people in terms of, okay, time to let you go, you know, or get you to apply for a job knowing good and well they're going to cut that job off, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is typical corporate, okay? And one of the things that I always subscribe to is that instead of running around applying for other people's jobs, create your own environment. And I don't know if anyone's ever asked you this, but I'm going to ask you this, which is that was part of the motivation of your trauma to create your own company was to create the environment by which you worked in? Because for me, I want to create that environment that's more family oriented, that's more equal status, that treats people with dignity. You know, this is the only way we're going to shift the paradigm, is to create a better framework than what we came from, so that when people work, they can work with dignity, they can come, they can tell you the truth about their circumstances and not have it belittled or demeaned like it's not good enough, you know, because it's important in their lives, and that we can treat them fairly and work with them fairly and not create a hostile situation, a belittling situation, a demeaning situation. So, you know, for me, whatever I do, I try to create a framework where it's inviting, that people will enjoy coming to it, that they can build their credibility from having participated in it, and they can walk away with something feeling so satisfied and with dignity. You know, what are your thoughts?
And that's amazing that you asked that question. And thank you. That's why I love you dearly. In my atmosphere, in my work atmosphere, I want to educate, because I think education, as far as customer service, as far as opening your own company, as far as self-esteem, as far as not being fearful, I try to create that atmosphere of educating my employees. And they'll tell you till this day, when my employees are going through something, we have conversations. And I think sometimes to my detriment, like I get stressed out because I'm so involved in their stuff, and I try to help them, but sometimes I have to tell myself, you came through this journey. You know what I mean? You had to learn this journey. Sometimes I expect them to get what I have gotten and what I have learned in that little time. So sometimes I stop and I educate them. I even give them assignments. I give them books to read, especially the women. You have no idea how much trauma these people are in. The way the world is now, with so many, mental illness is real.
Yes.
I'm telling you right now,
Yes.
mental illness is so real right now, and it's not recognizable to people because People are just walking around here doing crazy things and like, no, you have an issue. There's a problem. You need to see someone. So I connect, like I'm a connector. I connect them, my staff, people who come in my surroundings, as you know. I'm a strategist, like I'm a connector. I'm going to connect you to what you need. And I do the same thing for my employees. Like if they need anything from the system, if they're on welfare, if they need flexible hours, if they're on Social Security, I work around it. I give them flexible hours, but I let them know that I still have to run my business. And if this government or anybody needs to know something, I'm going to tell them because this is my baby and this is something that I
Right.
cherish.
Right.
But I'm trying to create that atmosphere for everyone to educate. Just for example, a lot of them come in with no driver's license. They're riding around with just regular IDs thinking it's okay. But after like understanding, there's no driving education in schools anymore.
That's right.
So what everyone is doing is just getting in the car and driving and thinking it's okay just to have a regular ID. No, you need a license. So what happens is they get tickets. They tickets pile up and they think it's okay. They're driving around with no license, so they accumulate tickets, and that's where ladies of justice come from. I help them have access to an attorney to go to court for them to work that out for them. You see what I mean? So I'm building a culture of educating and helping and assisting.
Yeah. Yeah. So I could keep you here for a long time. I could keep you here forever. Okay, we could go there. I'm telling you. But I'm gonna come to a close. And I'm sitting here contemplating my next question, which is, I could just say, "Oh, what do you have for our audience?" But I want to ask you this: what helps you to transcend the human condition to keep you always in your faith?
Oh, wow. Guess what? I learned from you. I watch you. I watch your spirit. I watch how you meditate. And that's what I do, meditate in the morning, trusting that God has my back. That faith is unbelievable right now, more than ever before in my life, because God has revealed to me things. When I sit back and wait and give it to Him, it always works out. So, meditation, just how you like, you just have no idea. And I thank you for interviewing me, just your spirit and the way you present yourself, your poise. Like, I'm going to be like Anolia. I'm
Okay, you
myself.
made me cry.
Her traits, you have no idea. And I've connected so many people with you. I'm like, no, you need to speak to Anolia. You need to get in touch with Anolia, because that spirit and that that you just have it, that faith. And that's me right now. And I thank you for that, because the energy is just there. And that's how I do it, meditating, turning things off, going into my off, no, looking in the mirror. When I get in a situation and I'm so involved in everyone else's issue, I go in the mirror and guess what I say? Mind your business. Mind your business. And sometimes I have to do it with myself because I can't turn it off.
Mhm.
That's just who I am in helping people. But I thank you and I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh,
So,
don't. We can't. You have no idea what influence you have on people. I could go on about you, and people need to know who you are. Because I'm like, there's something like God sent her. She's just powerful. Don't start me to crying
don't
about
start
you.
me either. Thank you.
Anybody, anybody. I take note, Enolia. You need to talk to Enolia. But anyway, all right, I'm sorry. Okay, go
No,
ahead.
because I do have reviews. No, Deborah. Deborah's the one to talk to us about this one. So-and-so's the one to talk about this. Like I see you, and I see how powerful you are. And I can see the shyness, because I've always been one of those people. I've always gravitated to the people who kind of like they want to be seen, but they don't want to be seen.
That's me.
Because I notice. I always notice. I take stock of everyone who's in the room, and I see them. I look at everyone. And even though I may not direct the energy to them or talk to them or anything, I see them. And like from the moment I met you, I saw you. I saw you.
Oh,
So yeah, yeah.
my story. You did not know my story. See, no one knows my story. And I thank you for allowing me to share because I thank you for telling me a couple of times, tell your story. Like, no, I'm not going to tell my story. What? But
Because
now,
there's so many out there that have a story that need to hear it. Let me tell you, when I wrote my story, because I wrote it in a book, when I wrote my story and I wrote like the honest to God feelings of how I felt about corporate, how I felt mistreated, how I felt demeaned as a Black woman, an American Black woman, against these corporate white males that just thought that work was a chess game and we'll have some fun, let's see who we can break and let's see how much they can take on. And when I finally walked 100 miles across Kenya, finished that walk and said I can't work there anymore, God came clear to me. Oh, you are not going to do that anymore. I have other things for you. I have other things for you. And then being petrified to say, okay, I'm going to start a new life at 50 years old.
wait, let me tell you what I did. And I'm real quick. Um,
Oh, yeah, go
just
ahead.
walking in corporate, my last corporate job, I got up. I was so fed up because of how I was treated. And I asked my boss, because he was getting ready to get promoted. And I said, okay, you're going to make sure you take care of me as far as an increase. You know what he said? He said, no, I'm going to work. I'm going to help these. There's two other people that I need to help. I went to meetings for him. I talked for him a lot. And then I got up, I walked around the whole place. This is a big location. I'm not going to say it in Detroit. 2 floors I was covering. I onboarded like 300 people, lawyers, everybody. I walked around, said, I'm never going to see these people again. Went back to my desk and start taking things down. Within 2 weeks, I was gone. And you're talking about faith. I was done, just
I
like
was,
you. And you,
1 week. It took me 1 week. I came in on Monday. I was gone Friday. I couldn't do it anymore.
did you feel it? Like it was a feeling that you couldn't describe.
No, I can't even begin to tell you. Like, I'm gonna share this. I did desert intensive with a grandfather. His name was grandfather Lynch of the Yaqui Indian, and he taught me my biggest lesson. He would take me out, and I met him in Arizona. I was staying at his guest house, which is across the street from his house. There's one other person who was taking intensive along with me, and he took me out in the desert, and he says, Emilia, go out there and select a rock. So I came back with this cute little hard rock, all cute and whatnot. And he's telling me how the grandfathers, which are the stones, have been there for millions of years, how they formulated and everything else. And he looked at that stone. He says, "You can keep that one. Go get a big one." So he came back with a medium-sized one like this. He's like, "No, come on, get a big one." So I came back and I'm carrying this stone like this, I'm really holding on to it. And he goes, "Okay, let's go." Right. So I'm like, "Ooh, what are we going to do? We're going to carve something, how are we going to shape this rock? Oh, this is cool. So I go into the house, and then my roommate was there, and she's like, she didn't have to go out. It was my turn to go out. And so she's cooking, and she's like, "Come on, help me." And I'm like, "Okay." So I put the stone down and I go to cook, and he goes, "What are you doing?" Grandfather goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm helping my roommate cook." He says, "Pick up that stone."
Oh
Excuse me.
my,
Pick up that stone. I was like, okay, so there I am, and of course I can't cook, so I just sat with it. I had to go to the bathroom, so I figured I went to the bathroom, and I go and I put the stone down. He goes, "What are you doing? Do you want to go home? Do you want to be sent home?" I'm like, "No, I want to learn from you." Pick up that stone. For the next 3 days, I had to carry that stone with me until I got it. Right? What is it that we carry with us? And I was a big one. Grudges,
wow.
nastiness,
Mm,
anger, And he
Wow.
had made it manifest physically. He wanted me to understand what I was carrying.
And it was heavy.
And it was heavy and it was awkward and it wasn't convenient. And I wanted it to go. And he says, "Are you ready to go? You ready for it to go?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I want it to go." He goes, "Okay, you're going to create a ceremony and you're going to make a promise to God. And it's between you and God." I'm like, "Okay." And the day that I let go of that stone was the day that I stopped holding pettiness, grudges. I was a very angry person. Girl, we came up fighting and bullies and everything else. You know that, right? I was angry. I had to lay the anger down, all of it down,
Wow.
all of it. And let me tell you something, you don't make promises to God and not keep them. Not as intimate as I've learned to really have that connection with God. Uh-uh. So that moment of anger, that moment of, I want to get back at somebody, it's there and then it's gone. It's gone. I've learned to let go. Because I look at God and I have to face. It's like you said, when I look in the mirror and I have to say, stop it. I look in the mirror and I say, stop it.
Wow.
Stop it. And he taught me the biggest lesson of my life. God bless him. Biggest lesson of my life. And I
Wow.
did. It was another major shift in my life. And so I tell a lot of these stories in my writing. That was one of the teachings that are actually in my 7 Principles for Self-Mastery book. I give a little excerpt about it, but I actually wrote about all of these different teachers. And I only shared one, which is finding my sovereign voice with my grandmother elder. Is only one of like 7 or 8 teachers that I had that really shaped my life. And each one of them was like a significant lesson like that, which is how I came up with my 7 principles and how to work with them. So if we don't share these things and we don't teach these things, or we don't physically take people out, have retreats, and do these things, how are they ever going to learn?
You
And when
won't.
they learn, that leadership, that understanding, that grasping, that with that person forever is a ripple effect, and it goes out and it goes out and it goes out and it goes out. You are like that leader, and that's why we tell our stories. That's why it's so important to have the speaking events and to tell it over again and over again, and that's why we do it, because it's going to reach that one extra person, and that one extra person you may reach that you don't know who you're affecting, that
Absolutely.
you like, that Deborah Crowley doesn't know who she's affecting. All of those people that you're teaching, all of those people that now can be entrepreneurs and have their own businesses and get it and execute it, and you've changed their whole course of their life because you took the time to share your knowledge and your story, is
Thank
everything.
you.
Is everything. So I don't want people to know your story. I want to share mine, and we're going to teach people to share theirs so that we can have these beacons of light all over the world sharing their stories. So when people are ready to come out of the storm of anger, when
Ooh.
people are ready to come out of the storm of insecurity, of jealousy, of frustration, of nastiness, of demeaning, of belittling, of manipulating. You want to add to that?
All the above.
All the above. When they're finished with it, they'll come out of the storm and they'll find people like us ready to work with them and to teach them and to help them.
Outcome. Absolutely. Absolutely. We have so much to give for real by telling our story. And it's just a release for us too, educating.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, what would you like to say to the audience before we close this up?
Um, just have faith, stay focused. Staying focused should be your main priority besides having faith and believing in God that things will happen. Stay focused. If you create a prize for yourself, and I call it a prize or a win, stay focused on that. Do not allow any distractions because you will get distractions. So you just have to bounce them off, but you just have to stay there. This is my motto, stay this way, because you're going to have stuff coming at you, but you just need to stay focused. Live your dream. Try to fight that fear if you can. Have faith and be the best version of you.
I love
Thank
it. And on
you.
that note, I want to say thank you. I'm so grateful for you being here. So, so happy that you're here. I want to reserve the right to call you back.
I want to listen to it for sure. Thank you,
Okay,
Anoli. Thank
absolutely. So,
you.
thank you, everyone. This has been another episode of The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. And I want to thank our special guest, Deborah Crowley. Thank you again. And Deborah, before we go, if people want to reach you, why don't you just share how they can reach you really quickly, and we'll also gather that information and make sure that it's in the description in the video cast.
Okay. You can reach me. It's okay. You can call me at my office at 248-888-7806. You can also reach me at my Instagram link, dcrowley39. Also, if you're interested in Ladies of Justice, guys, we empower women. You can go to my website, dcrowley39.ladiesofjustice.com, dcrowley39.ladiesofjustice.com. I'm always open here to chat with you and to help you to grow your business. Thank you.
Okay, and for those of you who may not have gotten that, we will make sure that her social media information is listed in our description. So thank you again, Deborah, and goodbye, everybody.
Bye bye.